I don't care if they eat me for this. I don't care if I lose my tiny salad privilege for this. Hell, I don't give a flying fuck if they kill me for this. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of being nervous. I'm tired of starving when I should not fucking have to. An excerpt from page 91 of Violet Evergreen in the Seed of Rebellion by Madam Krista Butterfly. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and to the review of Violet Evergreen in the Seeds of Rebellion by Madam Krista Butterfly. This is another sort of a fantasy novel that I actually love so much. You know, after discovering Madam Krista Butterfly Fox book, Curse of the Frog Prince, which I reviewed some months ago, I've become so enamored with her storytelling techniques. I love her characterization. I love her shares of words, and they all truly read dynamically. They read quite interestingly. And I am so fascinated to have picked up this Violet Evergreen in the Seeds of Rebellion. It's one of those fantastic fantasy novel that I've ever read. You know, it is full of magic, it is full of suspense, it is full of action, and at each part, each chapter would keep you longing for the next chapter. Each chapter will keep you looking forward to what is contained or what is coming up in the next chapter. As I keep reading through the characterization and some plot twists and some scenario, they read dynamically, they read quite interestingly, and it seemed to me as if I was watching a movie. And I also need to say that some part of the book are very humorous, like the characters, the conversation that exists between both characters, and the sort of reaction that you would expect one character to react or behave towards another. It's one of those things that I find quite amazing in the book. And as the story ends, towards the ending part, I was like, oh no, it shouldn't have ended here. And I'm so much looking forward to the second book series. Before I proceed in my review, I'd love to read to you the synopsis of the book. Are all secrets truly better off buried? Violet is a young woman who, against her will, is thrown into the world of uncertainty after losing a parent to unknown killers. Violet is given over to a cruel aunt and uncle, worn down by years of abuse from the people the court deemed fit to control her. She finds herself facing questions about her past and the secret her guidance hide. Violet learns that if she never wants the abuse to stop, she has to start fighting back. But she soon finds that a fight for freedom is a lot more complicated than she imagined. Will Violet succeed in finding answers, or will the power that be stop her? Honestly, this is one of those amazing, fiction novels I've ever read. It is very captivating. While I was actually reading through it, I was engrossed in the characterization. I was engrossed in the way one character reacts to another. And the story truly makes for an interesting read. It makes for an interesting discussion. It is quite very hilarious, interesting, fascinating, and I am so in love with it. So this book actually details the life of the protagonist, Violet, whom some family members are fighting to have a custody. The Lapers had accused her that she was the one who killed her parent because she has an unstable magic disorder. So these lies was what brought about the pain that Violet kept herself into for a very long time. You know, I need to say that I hate what happened in the court. Despite the fact that Aunt Drusilla was shouting at Violet, even right in front of everybody and the judge in the court, the judge still went ahead and deemed fit that Auntie Drusilla and her cruel husband Victor should have custody of Violet. Well, in my own perception, though it wasn't really indicated in the novel, I think that Lapels had went behind to go and bribe the judge. That's what I actually think happened, because despite the writing here, it was very obvious that Auntie Drusilla and her wicked, cruel husband Victor shouldn't have Violet custody. But the judge also went ahead and gave them the custody. You need to see the way he shut down barrister Bartholomew, who was working with the other family members. This is how Violet became a slave to her own family members. Not really family members, but this is how Violet became a slave to the Lapels. They took her to the house, and every time Aunt Drusilla would always shout at her and made her to know that she's the one that killed her parent. Wicked girl, because of the magic that she has. While in the Lapels custody, I love to say that Violet undergoes a lot of sad things. She undergoes a lot of difficult issues. She undergoes a lot of critical happenings. Sometimes they torment her with magic. Sometimes Auntie Drusilla will just, intentionally, out of her own wickedness, just give her a lot of orders, torment her anyhow, use magic and throw her to the air, let her be swinging and all of that. So it took Violet a lot of years, a lot of time for her to be able to recognize who she was. She was left, a lot of things were hidden from her. A lot of stories about her own family members were hidden from her. A lot of the possession that her father even left her with, because she's a very rich girl. But she was meant to live in servitude. She was meant to stay in her room. She did not enjoy the sort of freedom and liberty that ladies in her own age enjoys. She was meant to see different sort of horrendous issue. Drusilla is actually a wicked person in the novel, but I love to say that I love her characterization. So one of the ways with which Violet was captivated, except the fact that they don't want her to eat too much. I'm not sure, but eating techniques was somewhat like a mean to punish her. Sometimes they talk about water weight. I'm like, do people really gain water weight? So it is just so hard that they keep tormenting her. They do not give her the freedom she ought to deserve. And even the same house that they are living is Violet's house, because it's her father's house and they are very rich, but she has a lot of power. But they don't want her to know some things about her family members, and that's why they've come up with the lie that she was the one who killed her parent. But in my own perception, Violet come across as someone who has a good heart. Because occasionally, some part of the novel, whenever she's going out, like moving outside, she would see some poor people and she would help them. She would heal some people who have wounds, so with her own personal magic. And here, I need to move into the transition whereby Aunt Drusilla was trying to marry off Violet. And at every instance, she would set up a date for her. The first date went very funnily. The second date, the third date, and even the fourth date. Even though poor Violet had no idea why Drusilla is always setting her up for dates. She just thought that she wanted to marry her off quickly. But there is something within Drusilla marrying off Violet off, which wasn't really too much expounded in the novel. But from mere reading it, you'll be able to note that something is suspicious here. Something is fishy here. Something is not right here. And that's why I term my review of the book on Amazon as one that is magically fascinating, full of suspense, and Violet will continue to seek for truth. The first date, I wouldn't love to move very deep into the novel, but the first date was quite very hilarious. She was set up with a driver, a drunken driver, and afterward, the date did not go on fine. So she came back home and Drusilla had to set her up for another date. So that's how they keep setting her up for another. And she was like, why would they be telling her to marry someone that she doesn't even agree with? She was like, marriage ought to be your own free will, your own determination. It has to be your own choice. You have to choose who you ought to get married to, not someone else forcing someone on you. But it gets to a point towards the fourth time that they're setting her up for marriage, that the stupid people that are setting her up for marriage were even bold enough to say that, if they marry Violet, they're going to be rich, etc. They're going to take possession of this and that. But beyond that, there are some hidden reasons why Drusilla was absolutely, like, eagerly and passionately interested in marrying Violet off. One of which I wouldn't love to reveal in this review in my attempt to make it spoiler free. However, during the time of the second date that Violet ought to go, it also turns out to be a knot. But I also love to say that in the restaurant where they are meeting, there's another fantastic character that emerged from there, which is the CEO of the Taste of Magic restaurant. So there, Violet was able to make a sort of a good connection with him because the man has experienced a second and third date, and it's come across to even the staff that this date is not of Violet's free will. So it took Violet a lot of time after she had passed through a horrendous situation, after she has passed through heart-wrenching experiences in her home. It took her a lot of time for her to begin to realize the sort of power that she has. It took her a lot of time for her to begin to regain the consciousness and get to know more about magic and how she can protect herself. I need to say that she was able to get this based on the sort of some family members who are somewhat truthful to her. They told her that you should be able to use your magic to, stop Drusilla at some time whenever she's trying to make joke of you. You should be able to use your magic to hinder her whenever she's trying to use her own magic to oppress you. So, and again, I also need to say that I love the visitation of one of Violet's friends, Zhangli, who came to visit her in some time. The book is very magical. And at every instant, I love the way the characters behave. At every instance, I love the way the story was written. It was written dynamically, and you can always catch the image in your head, and it looks as if you're watching a movie. There are a lot of scenarios to mention the point whereby Violet occasionally was not allowed to eat, even when she go for her own date. And sometimes she's deprived of some food. So sometimes some of her friends would help her sneak food into the home, and sometimes the lapels put a sort of a CCTV camera in her room to monitor her. Like, they just want her to live in servitude. They are trying to use Violet's head to build wealth and fortune for their own self. And these are actually family members, and this is why I actually find the book very hilarious, very interesting, and I was like, wow, this is actually gonna be a sort of a good movie adaptation. And yes, Violet began to understand the sort of power she has when she began to get exposure to some information, to some stories about herself and a family member. There's a day she sneaked into the kitchen and she overheard the conversation that her aunt Drusilla, the wicked aunt, and her wicked husband Victor was having in the sitting room. They made a long conversation concerning Violet power and how she's beginning to gain more power nowadays, and how they want to suppress it, and how they ought to quickly marry her off. As in, the story is just so fascinating. And from the conversation that Violet overheard her aunt and her husband, this left her to continue to want to seek for more information, to continue to seek for the truth, to continue to seek and get to know about our own power, our own actuality. Why are these people interested in marrying her off? Why are even the governor of the state interested in whatsoever happens to her? The novel is just so amazing. Now moving into the transition whereby there's a demon attack in the state. And this part is actually very interesting too, because the government have actually built a wall. And whenever this demon attack comes, a lot of people who were able to make their way into the wall would get saved, while some other people who could not make their way to the wall would be killed. However, during the fourth date that Drusilla set up with Violet, Violet plays a curse on her, so that wherever the date tells her, she would agree with it. This was ought to be the third one, so she would agree with it. But later on, when she got to the date section, the man that they even set up with her, the man was not really that much interested. It's as if two families are forcing two people to get married together, and the man was able to help, Violet break Drusilla's cause on her, so that she won't agree with whatsoever the date went through. The story is just quite interesting. Like, When I was reading through it, I was laughing, and I'm even short of words to know exactly or how I ought to describe it in this review because I don't want to spoil it. I'm attempting to make it spoiler free. However, I'd love to say that during the fourth date that Violet had, this is a part that I love so much. You know, it reads interestingly, especially the part where they were having dinner together. You know, the family of the to-be husband and the family of Violet. And Violet was able to text in herself that, okay, she would see the reaction of these people and she would from here get to know those people that belong to a cult, because she gets to understand a lot of information from Akeem. Violet at some instance was now becoming exposed to information, crucial information about her family members, which give her courage to stand against Drusilla. So when they were having this dinner together, the family of the to-be husband from the various family, we're having this dinner together, and Violet talked within herself that she's gonna eat this fish and see who reacts. So as she put the fish in her mouth, Drusilla started screaming, why would you eat? You're watching your weight. And here I was like, is she watching weight every time? And I think that's one of the reasons that I love Madam Crystal Butterfly's writing. Her characterization, her storytelling techniques is a type that is very hilarious, very interesting, very fascinating, and the one that is very captivating to the point whereby you find yourself flipping to the pages non-stop. There is much to say about Violet Evergreen and the Seed of Rebellion. I just don't want to, talk too much about it. I don't want to give out much about the story because I attempt to make my review spoiler free. However, if I'd love to get a copy of this book, I left a link in the description part of this review for you to get a copy directly on Amazon. And I'm desperately looking forward to see how Violet was able to gain power in the second book series. And I also want you to check out why is the Lapels interested in marrying Violet off. Why are they even interested in sharing Violet's diary with even the worker in the house, which sounds very weird and very stupid to me? Why are the workers even trying to exercise authority over Violet, who is the owner of the house, who even has power on all of them but was kept in silence because of some truth that they've hidden from her? Like, the story is very amazing. It is beyond my outright description, and I so much love it that I don't want to give it out too much. There are lots of suspicious concepts. There are lots of questions that we would begin to ask yourself as you begin to read the story, and that's why I said it's full of suspense. It's full of personal imagination, and I am looking forward to getting to know how the story is continued in the second book series. I love the ending part of the novel. It is very hilarious. I keep laughing through some part when I read through it. Talking about the part whereby Violet lifts up Darius to the air, and the father of Darius, as Lincoln, was like, have you idiot forgotten that my son is stuck in the air? And the inside whereby Darius was made to calm down in a hilarious manner that she found himself landing inside the water, that Lincoln and some other people had to quickly rush to the swimming pool to save him up. So there are a lot of things to know about this book. The mansion that Violet lives in, the demon attack, instance of marrying her off, and several other amazing concepts, interesting scenarios that made the book read interestingly. I'm also recommending Case of the Frog Prince, which I reviewed several months ago, to readers who would love to get a copy of Violet Evergreen and the Seed of Rebellion. So I've experienced 2 books from Madam Crystal Butterfly, and I'm looking forward to also reading the second book series of Violet Evergreen and the Seed of Rebellion. This book made a list of my admirable fiction novel. I'm also looking forward to making a video about my top 20 or 30th fiction novel by indie authors I've read so far. So this is where I'm gonna stop my review of Violet Evergreen in the Seed of Rebellion. If you watched this video to this point and you're yet to click on the subscribe button, I wanna urge you to please click on the subscribe button over there. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can get notified anytime I release new videos. Thank you very much for watching. See you in my next video. Goodbye.